The innocent question. The spaceship Odyssey 9 floated silently through the dark void of space. Inside, bright lights flickered in the research lab, where Dr. Elias Carter sat at his desk, sipping a cup of coffee. He had spent the last few weeks studying the Kailari, a strange but adorable alien species that looked like a mix between a cat and a squirrel. One Kailari, named Rylix, had grown attached to Elias. It followed him everywhere, asked endless questions, and seemed fascinated by human behavior. Rylix was small, covered in soft blue fur, and had large, glowing eyes. Unlike most aliens, the Kailari were incredibly intelligent and could understand human language very quickly. Elias stretched his arms and yawned. It had been a long day. He had been explaining human biology to Rylix, answering its never-ending curiosity. But just when he thought he could finally relax, Rylix spoke. "Wait, humans reproduce like that. Can I try too?" Elias choked on his coffee. He coughed, his eyes wide with shock. The room went silent. A few scientists at nearby desks turned their heads, their faces frozen in confusion. What?" Elias stammered, wiping coffee off his chin. Rylix tilted its head, its fluffy tail swishing back and forth. "I saw two humans kissing yesterday, and I overheard Dr. Emily saying that's how human babies are made. So, can I try?" Elias blinked. His brain refused to process the words. No." He held up his hands. No, that's not how this works." Rylix's ears drooped. "But why? I thought we were friends." Elias sighed, rubbing his forehead. He needed to be careful. The Kailari were not just cute little creatures. They were official diplomatic allies. If he said the wrong thing, it could turn into a very awkward situation. He took a deep breath. "Okay, let me explain." He pulled up a holographic display, showing diagrams of human reproduction. Humans don't just, decide to make babies like a science project. It's a complex process that involves emotions, biology, and private things. Rylix stared at the screen, then back at Elias. "But in Kailari culture, we just exchange energy waves. Two Kailari stand together, merge their life signals, and poof, a new Kailari appears in an egg sac." Elias nearly dropped his coffee again. "That sounds very different." Rylix nodded eagerly. "So I thought maybe I could try human reproduction too. For science." Elias shook his head. "No, absolutely not. That's not how this works." Before Rylix could argue, a loud beep echoed through the lab. Elias checked his communicator. It was an urgent message from Commander Vance. "Dr. Carter, report to the bridge immediately." Elias frowned. The commander never called him unless something serious was happening. He turned to Rylix. "Stay here. And please, for the love of everything, do not ask anyone else that question." Rylix blinked. "Why not?" Elias groaned. Just don't." He hurried out of the lab, his mind still reeling from the bizarre conversation. On the bridge. When Elias arrived at the command bridge, Commander Vance was standing in front of the main screen, arms crossed. He was a tall, serious man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The moment he saw Elias, he gestured for him to come closer. "We have a problem," Vance said. Elias sighed. "Please tell me this isn't about Rylix." Vance gave him a sharp look. "Oh, it's about Rylix, all right. And the rest of the Kailari." Elias felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. What happened? The commander pressed a button, and a message appeared on the main screen. It was from the Kailari ambassador, and the words made Elias' blood run cold. "Dr. Carter, we are delighted to hear that you have agreed to begin interspecies reproduction with our kind. This is a historic moment for both our species. The bonding ceremony shall begin at dawn." Elias nearly fell backward. "Wait, what?" Commander Vance gave him a long, tired look. "Carter, what the hell did you say to them?" Elias felt dizzy. This had to be a joke, or a nightmare. I didn't agree to anything," he sputtered. The commander pointed at the message. "Then why do the Kilari think you're about to start an interspecies baby-making project?" Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. His mind flashed back to his conversation with Rylix. Oh no. He looked at the screen, then back at the commander. "I think there's been a very big misunderstanding." Vance's voice was calm, but his eyes were deadly serious. "Then you better fix it. Fast." Elias swallowed hard. This was going to be a disaster. Suspenseful end. Before Elias could respond, another beep came from the console. A second message from the Kilari ambassador appeared. "The entire Kilari Council is eager to witness this historic union. The fate of our alliance depends on it." Elias felt lightheaded. Oh, crap. The awkward explanation. Dr. Elias Carter stood frozen on the command bridge of Odyssey 9, his heart pounding in his chest. The words on the screen were clear, yet his brain refused to accept them. "The bonding ceremony shall begin at dawn." Commander Vance, arms crossed, stared at Elias with the look of a man who had just been handed the worst problem of his career. Around them, the bridge crew pretended to focus on their tasks, but Elias could feel their eyes on him, waiting for an explanation. He swallowed hard. "Sir, I swear, I did not agree to anything." Vance raised an eyebrow. "Then why do the Kilari think you're about to create the first human-Kilari hybrid?" Elias ran a hand through his hair, mind racing. "I think I might have accidentally started an interstellar diplomatic crisis." The commander sighed. "Great, that's just what I wanted to hear today." A beep interrupted them as another message from the Kilari ambassador appeared on the screen. "Dr. Carter, we understand that human bonding customs may be different from our own. Do not worry. We will handle all the necessary preparations. The High Council will be in attendance. May this be a moment of great unity between our species." Elias's mouth went dry. "High Council? Unity? Oh no. No, no, no." Vance pinched the bridge of his nose. "Carter, you're going down there. You're fixing this. And you're doing it before this turns into a full-scale disaster." "Down there? To the Kilari homeworld?" Elias asked, his voice going slightly higher than usual. Vance gave him a hard look. "You caused this mess. You're cleaning it up." Before Elias could argue, the ship's navigation officer spoke up. "Sir, the Kilari have already sent a transport. It's waiting in docking bay 3. Elias groaned. Of course they had. The Kilari were efficient. Too efficient. A tense journey. Minutes later, Elias found himself standing in docking bay 3, watching as the Kilari transport ship extended a glowing blue ramp. The Kilari ships were sleek, organic-looking, like something grown instead of built. Rylix, who had followed Elias the entire way, bounced excitedly. "Oh, this is going to be amazing. You'll be the first human to bond with a Kilari. Everyone is so excited." Elias turned to Rylix, barely holding back a frustrated sigh. "Rylix, buddy, I need you to listen to me very carefully." He knelt down, looking the small, furry alien in the eyes. "Humans and Kilari do not bond the way you think they do." Rylix blinked. "But why not?" "The High Council said it was a great idea. They even arranged a celebration." Elias squeezed his eyes shut for a second. "Because humans and Kilari are biologically incompatible. We don't. Look, it's just not possible, okay?" Rylix tilted its head. "So humans only make new humans with other humans. That seems very limited." Elias groaned. "It's not limited, it's just how biology works." Before Rylix could ask another question, the ship's pilot, a tall Kilari with golden fur, stepped forward. "Dr. Carter, we must leave now. The High Council awaits." Elias sighed and stepped onto the transport. The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. There was no turning back now. The Kilari homeworld. The journey to the Kilari homeworld was short. Within minutes, the transport entered the planet's atmosphere, gliding over vast landscapes of glowing forests, crystalline rivers, and floating cities. The sky was a deep shade of violet, filled with shimmering stars even during the day. The ship landed in the capital city, right outside the Great Hall of Unity, a massive spiraling structure that pulsed with energy. Hundreds of Kilari were gathered, their fur shimmering in shades of blue, gold, and silver. Elias stepped out of the ship and immediately felt overwhelmed. The Kilari were cheering. Some were holding banners with his name written in their flowing script. Others were throwing small bursts of glowing dust into the air, a traditional symbol of blessing. He turned to Rylix. "Why are they treating me like a hero?" Rylix grinned. "Because you are one. You're about to unite our species." Elias groaned. "I am not about to do that." The High Council's decision. Inside the Great Hall, Elias found himself standing before a semicircle of 7 Kilari elders, all watching him with eager expressions. The Grand Elder, an ancient Kilari with fur as white as starlight, spoke first. "Dr. Carter, we are honored by your willingness to participate in this grand experiment." Elias held up his hands. "There is no experiment. This is all a massive misunderstanding." The council members exchanged confused glances. "Are you declining the bonding?" ***, the Grand Elder asked, sounding disappointed. "Yes," Elias nearly shouted. "Humans and Kilari can't reproduce together. It's just not scientifically possible." Silence filled the hall. The Kilari murmured amongst themselves. Rylix frowned. But why does it matter? Isn't family about love and connection, not just genetics?" Elias blinked. "What?" Rylix continued, stepping forward. "I thought bonding was about forming strong connections, not just making babies. In Kilari culture, family is chosen, not just born." The room fell silent again. Elias exhaled. "Okay, so, if not reproduction, what exactly do you mean by bonding?" The Grand Elder smiled. "It is simple. The bonding ceremony is a declaration of unity. It means you and Rylix will be permanently connected as family. In our culture, this is the highest form of honor." Elias stared. "Wait, so you didn't actually think we were going to, you know?" Rylix giggled. "No, that would be silly. But humans always act so strangely when talking about reproduction, so I wanted to see your reaction." Elias felt a mix of relief and frustration. "So this whole time, I wasn't about to start an interspecies breeding program." The Grand Elder chuckled. "Of course not. But if you agree, Rylix will become your official Kilari family member, forever connected to humanity." Elias looked at Rylix, who was practically vibrating with excitement. He sighed, shaking his head with a smile. "You little troublemaker." Rylix beamed. "So, does that mean yes?" Elias chuckled. "Yeah, sure. Why not?" The crowd erupted in cheers. The bonding ceremony would proceed. But thankfully, not in the way Elias had originally feared. The diplomatic disaster. The Great Hall of Unity hummed with excitement. Hundreds of Kilari had gathered to witness what they believed was a historic moment. The first official bonding between a human and a Kilari. Dr. Elias Carter, however, felt like he had just walked into a very public trap. He stood in the center of the vast ceremonial chamber, towering over the much shorter Kilari. Rylix was bouncing excitedly beside him, his tail swishing back and forth like a hyperactive metronome. Elias glanced around nervously. The Kilari High Council, a group of ancient and wise elders, sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. The Grand Elder, the oldest and most respected Kilari, watched him with an unreadable expression. Flanking the council were Kilari nobles, warriors, and scholars, all whispering among themselves. Some looked amused, others excited. But what worried Elias the most were the diplomats from other alien species standing in the back of the chamber. This was not just a Kilari event. This was an intergalactic event. Elias wiped his palms on his uniform. "Okay, stay calm. Just clear up the misunderstanding and go home." Then the ceremony began. The bonding begins. The Grand Elder raised a hand, and the hall fell silent. His fur shimmered like moonlight as he spoke. Dr. Carter, the Kailari people welcome you. Today, we celebrate the unity of two species. Are you prepared to complete the bonding ceremony? Elias took a deep breath. Right. About that, I think there's been a... Before he could finish, a small Kailari child in the audience squeaked excitedly. He's nervous. How cute. The crowd laughed warmly. Elias forced a smile. No, I'm not nervous. I just think we should talk about. A loud drumbeat echoed through the hall. The Grand Elder nodded. Proceed with the ritual. Two Kailari priests approached, carrying a ceremonial cloth woven with glowing blue symbols. They gently placed it around Elias's shoulders. What does this mean? Elias asked. Relix grinned. It means we are officially recognizing you as my bonded human. From now on, we are family. Elias hesitated. And that's all this means. No weird genetic experiments. No, reproduction expectations. The Grand Elder chuckled. Of course not. That would be biologically impossible. The bonding ceremony is about unity, not creation. Elias exhaled in relief. Oh, thank God. The Kailari gasped. The Grand Elder's ears twitched. Fascinating. You invoke your deity during moments of stress. How utterly human. The crowd murmured in excitement, as if Elias had just revealed a deep cultural secret. Relix beamed. I love learning about human weirdness. Elias sighed. Glad I could contribute. The Grand Elder continued. Now, the final step. A Kailari noble stepped forward, carrying a small silver device that pulsed with energy. Elias frowned. What's that? Relix nudged him. It's a symbol of our connection. It will be linked to your neural signature. Elias's stomach dropped. Wait. Linked? As in permanently. The noble bowed. This bonding mark will allow Relix to sense your emotions, no matter the distance. It is an ancient custom. Elias blinked. I'm sorry. What? The noble stepped closer, holding the device up to Elias's forehead. Elias stepped back. Whoa. Hold on. I didn't agree to emotional tracking. The crowd gasped in shock. Relix's ears drooped. But that's part of the bonding ritual. You don't want to be bonded. Elias hesitated. No, it's not that. It's just, humans don't usually share their emotions like that. The Grand Elder nodded thoughtfully. I see. Humans value privacy. Elias nodded quickly. Exactly. We don't want people just reading our emotions whenever they want. The hall fell silent. Then a Kailari scholar whispered, That sounds very lonely. The whisper spread. The Kailari looked at Elias with something close to pity. Elias suddenly felt like he was the weird one. The Grand Elder sighed. Very well. If humans do not share emotions as we do, we will not force it. The noble lowered the device. The crowd looked slightly disappointed, but they still clapped politely. Elias sighed in relief. Okay, great. So, we're good now. The Grand Elder smiled. Indeed, the ceremony is complete. The crowd cheered. The diplomatic fallout. Elias thought that was the end of it. He thought he could return to Odyssey 9 and pretend this never happened. He was wrong. The moment he stepped off the ceremonial platform, the diplomats from the other alien species swarmed him. A tall reptilian alien from the Zyrexian Empire hissed, Human, are you saying your species does not share emotional bonds? A bird-like alien from the Ovlori Federation flapped its wings. Fascinating. How do your families stay connected? A robotic delegate from the Synthex Collective buzzed. Do humans not experience collective thought? Elias backed away. We just talk to each other. The Zyrexian diplomat narrowed his eyes. So primitive. Elias's eye twitched. Okay, wow. Thanks. The Ovlori diplomat looked at the Grand Elder. Elder, Does this mean humans are culturally incompatible with the Kailari? Rylix's ears flattened. No. Elias is my bonded human. He's family. The Zyrexian delegate scoffed. Then why did he refuse the emotional link? The Grand Elder raised a hand. Because humans value individual thought. This is their way. The room fell silent. Then, slowly, the alien diplomats nodded in understanding. The Avlori delegate ruffled its feathers. Interesting. Perhaps humanity's strength is their independence. The Zyrexian's tail flicked. Or their weakness. Elias crossed his arms. Hey, we're right here. The Synthex machine hummed. Conclusion. Humanity is an enigma. Further observation is required. Elias groaned. Great. Now we're a science project. The Grand Elder smiled. The ceremony is over. Let us feast in celebration. Elias sighed. He needed a drink. The escape plan. The Great Hall of Unity was buzzing with excitement. Kailari musicians played soft, rhythmic tones on their floating crystal instruments, while platters of glowing alien fruits and roasted meats were passed around. The grand feast was in full swing. But Dr. Elias Carter, he was not enjoying himself. He sat stiffly at the long banquet table, trapped between two overly curious alien diplomats. One was an Avlori, a bird-like species covered in shimmering green feathers. The other was a Zyrexian, a tall reptilian creature with slit pupil eyes that never blinked. Both were very interested in humanity now. The Avlori leaned in, her beak clicking with excitement. So tell me, Dr. Carter, is it true that human couples argue before mating? Fascinating. Do they challenge each other in combat first? Elias nearly choked on his drink. Oh no, it's not like that. Arguments are just discussions, loud discussions. The Zyrexian diplomat's forked tongue flicked out. Primitive. In Zyrexian culture, mates battle for dominance. The strongest produces the best offspring. Elias sighed. That explains a lot. From across the table, Rylix was absolutely loving this. His fluffy ears twitched in amusement as he watched Elias suffer through the interrogation. See, this is fun. Rylix chirped, popping a glowing berry into his mouth. You're learning about new cultures. Elias shot him a glare. This is not fun. The Avlori diplomat tapped her clawed fingers together. We must introduce humanity to more galactic traditions, perhaps a cross-species bonding event. The Zyrexian's tail thumped against the floor. Yes, we could study human courtship rituals in greater depth. Elias slammed his drink down. Okay, that's it. I'm leaving. Rylix's ears perked up. Wait, what? Elias stood up. I didn't sign up for a lifetime of weird alien dating questions. I need to get back to Odyssey 9 before someone tries to marry me off to a Zyrexian. Rylix gasped. Oh no. You're right. The Kailari Matchmaking Council might try to set you up with someone. Elias's eye twitched. There's a matchmaking council. Rylix nodded seriously. Oh yes, they take bonding very seriously. Elias swore under his breath. Nope. I'm done. I need an exit plan. Right now. The attempted escape. Elias grabbed Rylix by the scruff and pulled him toward the nearest hallway, away from the feast. The small alien yelped in protest, but didn't resist. Okay, Rylix, you got me into this mess. You're gonna help me get out. Rylix wiggled his tail, but why would you want to leave? You're a galactic celebrity now. Everyone loves you. Elias exhaled. That's exactly the problem. The last thing I need is to be the face of some weird interspecies experiment. Rylix blinked. But you already are. Elias groaned. They rounded a corner, heading toward the spaceport. The docking bay wasn't far, but the corridors were filled with Kailari nobles, scholars, and warriors, all hoping to greet the famous human. Elias cursed under his breath. Too many eyes. We need a distraction. Rylix's ears twitched. Oh, I know how to cause distractions. Elias hesitated. Should I be worried? Relix grinned mischievously. Without another word, the little Kelari bolted into the crowd, leaping onto tables and knocking over plates. He ran straight toward the Grand Elder, grabbing the ceremonial bonding cloth from his shoulders and waving it like a victory flag. Revolution! Relix shrieked. Down with the council. The entire banquet hall erupted in chaos. Guards rushed forward. Nobles shouted in confusion. The Grand Elder, utterly bewildered, tried to catch Relix, but the small alien was too quick. Elias didn't waste a second. He turned and sprinted toward the docking bay. The chase. Elias ducked through the twisting corridors of the Kelari capital, his heart pounding. He could hear guards shouting behind him. The human is escaping. Seal the exits. Block the spaceport. Elias cursed. They think I'm running away from the bonding. This just keeps getting worse. Suddenly, a small furry blur appeared beside him. Relix, still clutching the ceremonial cloth, grinned. That was awesome. I should start revolutions more often. Elias didn't slow down. Relix, do you have a way off this planet? The small alien nodded eagerly. Oh yeah. I have a personal escape pod. It's, technically not mine, but I borrow it sometimes. Elias grinned. Perfect. Take me to it. They darted through the alleyways of the city, avoiding patrols. Eventually, they reached a hidden hangar beneath one of the floating gardens. Inside was a tiny, rusted escape pod that looked one bad landing away from exploding. Elias stared at it. This thing is barely holding together. Relix patted the side. She's got character. She's got rust. Details. Elias groaned. Fine. Let's just get out of here before someone decides I need a mate battle with a Zyrexian. They climbed into the pod. The controls were way too small for Elias, clearly designed for Kelari pilots. He awkwardly squeezed into the cramped cockpit. Relix flipped some switches. Okay. Take off in 3, 2. The hangar doors burst open. A squad of Kelari warriors stormed in. Hailed. UKNNOTLEV. Elias planted his hand on the launch button. Too late. The pod lurched violently and shot into the sky, leaving the Kelari forces behind. Elias let out a breath of relief. We made it. Relix grinned. That was fun. Can we do it again? Elias groaned. Back on Odyssey 9. The escape pod docked with Odyssey 9, and Elias practically fell out the moment the doors opened. Commander Vance was waiting. Arms crossed. Face not amused. Carter. Elias straightened. Sir. Vance gestured at the incoming messages flooding the ship's main screen. Thousands of them. The Kelari were demanding answers. The Zyrexians wanted to challenge Elias to a combat trial. The Ovlori were offering to teach humans new mating rituals. And the Galactic Council. They wanted Elias to be an official ambassador for human-alien relations. Elias closed his eyes. I need a drink. Relix beamed. I'll get the snacks. The great debate. The bridge of Odyssey 9 was in chaos. Messages from multiple alien factions flooded the communication systems, their voices overlapping into a distorted mess of diplomatic demands, official grievances, and somehow, enthusiastic proposals for interspecies cultural exchange. Dr. Elias Carter sat in the captain's chair, his head in his hands. Commander Vance stood beside him, arms crossed, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and mild amusement. Carter, do you want to explain to me why half the galaxy thinks you just rejected a sacred bonding ritual? Elias groaned. It was a misunderstanding. Relix, sitting cross-legged on the floor, nodded enthusiastically. Yup. He panicked and ran. It was hilarious. Elias shot him a glare. Not helping. Vance sighed and gestured to the massive holoscreen, where several diplomats and alien leaders were now demanding an explanation. Let's start with the Kelari. The screen shifted, revealing the Kalari Grand Elder, his fur shimmering with barely concealed disappointment. "Dr. Carter, your sudden departure has caused quite a stir among our people. Many believe you have rejected the bond entirely." Elias winced. "I didn't reject Rylix. I just—" The Zyrexian diplomat cut him off, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "You rejected a sacred bonding ceremony. Among my people, this would be an insult worthy of combat." The Avlori ambassador fluffed her feathers in concern. "Perhaps humans do not value interspecies relationships the way we do. If so, we must reconsider future diplomatic efforts." The Galactic Council representative, a massive AI construct known as Unit Theta, pulsed with cold logic. "This event has drawn great attention. The question must be answered. Are humans truly capable of forming lasting interspecies alliances?" The room fell silent. Elias's stomach twisted. This was bad. If he didn't fix this, humanity's diplomatic relationships with multiple alien factions could crumble overnight. He glanced at Rylix, who sat quietly for once, watching him expectantly. Elias exhaled slowly. Then he straightened and looked directly at the screen. "I think there's been a misunderstanding about what bonding means to humans." The speech that changed everything. Elias took a deep breath and chose his words carefully. "Humans do form bonds, deep ones, but our weight is different. We don't have an instant connection through shared emotions, and we don't merge energy signatures like the Kalari. We build our connections over time, through trust, loyalty, and shared experiences." The diplomats listened intently. For humans, family isn't just about blood or biology. It's about choice. It's about standing beside someone, no matter what, and saying, "You are important to me." The Avlori ambassador tilted her head. "So you do not need a ceremony?" Elias smiled slightly. "No. Our ceremonies exist, but they're just symbols. What matters is what we do after them. The real bond happens in the moments we spend together, the sacrifices we make, the love and loyalty we share." The Kalari Grand Elder's ears twitched thoughtfully. "Fascinating. So you are saying Rylix is already bonded to you?" Elias glanced down at Rylix, who was staring up at him with wide eyes. He smiled. "Yeah, we're family. No ceremony needed." The Kalari Council whispered among themselves. The Zyrexian diplomat crossed his arms. "A bond built over time, tested through hardship. Perhaps this is not weakness. Perhaps this is strength." The Avlori ambassador fluffed her feathers in agreement. "Indeed, a bond formed without ritual, yet strong regardless. How poetic." Unit Theta's mechanical voice hummed. Conclusion: humans form bonds differently, but the outcome remains. Galactic diplomacy remains stable. Elias let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Crisis averted. The uninvited challenge. Just when Elias thought things were settling down, a new voice interrupted the conversation. A Zyrexian warlord appeared on screen, his massive armored form looming over the other diplomats. His voice was a deep growl, filled with barely controlled amusement. "Human, you say your bonds are formed through trials and hardships. Then prove it." Elias froze. "Prove it? How?" The Zyrexian warlord's eyes gleamed. "A combat trial. You will face one of our warriors in battle. If you are victorious, you will prove your bond with Rylix is strong. If you fail, well, we will assume humans are weak." Elias's stomach dropped. "Wait, what?" Rylix gasped in excitement. "Ooh! I've always wanted to see human combat rituals." Elias spun to Vance. "Commander, permission to decline this insanity." Vance sighed. "I'd love to say yes, Carter. But if we refuse, we'll be seen as dishonorable. This could damage relations with the Zyrexians permanently." Elias rubbed his temples. "Why is it always combat with these guys?" The Zyrexian warlord grinned, baring razor-sharp teeth. "Fear not, human. It will not be to the death." Elias didn't feel any better. The Avlori ambassador fluffed her feathers. "Oh, perhaps we can make it more interesting. A team combat trial. Elias may choose a second." Elias blinked. A second. Rylix immediately leaped onto his shoulder, grinning from ear to ear. "Pick me. Pick me." Elias stared at him. "Rylix, buddy. I need someone strong." Rylix puffed out his chest. "I am strong. In spirit." Elias sighed. "That is not the same thing." The Zyrexian warlord let out a booming laugh. "The Kalari chooses battle. This will be entertaining." Elias groaned internally. "This is going to be a disaster." The Grand Elder nodded solemnly. "Dr. Carter, if this is how we prove human bonds, then we shall support you." Elias exhaled sharply. Great. Now he was fighting in an alien battle trial to prove humanity's ability to form friendships. Worst. First contact. Ever. Rylix grinned excitedly. "Don't worry. I have a plan." Elias stared at him. "Oh God. We're going to die." The unconventional solution. The combat arena aboard the Zyrexian warship was a colossal metal dome, its interior lined with glowing energy fields that crackled with raw power. Hundreds of spectators, Zyrexians, Kalari, Avlori, and even representatives from other species, had gathered to watch the most unexpected event in recent diplomatic history. A human scientist and a tiny, fluffy alien versus a Zyrexian warrior twice their size. Dr. Elias Carter stood in the center of the arena, deeply regretting every life choice that had brought him here. Beside him, Rylix bounced on his toes, his tail flicking excitedly. "I've never been in a battle trial before. This is going to be so much fun." Elias ran a hand down his face. "Rylix, we're going to get flattened." The Zyrexian warrior opposite them was an absolute mountain of muscle and scales. He was nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick battle armor, and carried a massive, jagged blade that looked like it could cleave a spaceship in half. His name was Torvash, and he looked very eager to break something. The Zyrexian warlord, observing from a raised throne, gestured toward the combatants. "The trial of bonded strength will now commence. The battle shall end when one side is unable to continue. May the strongest prove their worth." A loud gong rang through the arena. Torvash roared in charge. Elias panicked. "Oh crap. Run." The fight that wasn't a fight. Elias and Rylix dodged wildly, diving out of the way as Torvash's blade slammed into the ground, sending shockwaves through the arena floor. Sparks flew as metal cracked beneath the force. Elias hit the ground hard, rolling to avoid a second strike. "We are not using this with strength," he shouted. Rylix giggled as he scurried between Torvash's legs. "That's fine. I have a plan." Elias, still trying not to die, groaned. "I don't trust your plans." Torvash growled, spinning around. "Fight, human. Show your strength." Elias barely avoided another swing. "I'm a scientist, not a warrior." Torvash narrowed his eyes. "Then you are weak." Elias's mind raced. Strength wouldn't win this battle. But maybe ingenuity would. He glanced at Rylix. "What's the plan?" Rylix grinned. "Confuse him." "What?" Rylix sprang into action. He darted around Torvash's legs, weaving between his strikes, shouting nonsense the entire time. "Did you know humans sneeze at 100 miles per hour?" Torvash hesitated. "What? And they have bones made of calcium. So weak." Torvash blinked, momentarily thrown off. Elias took the opportunity to grab a discarded energy staff from the ground. He wasn't strong, but he was fast. While Torvash was distracted, Elias jammed the staff between the warrior's armored knee joints. Torvash stumbled. "What?" Elias yanked the staff hard, twisting it at just the right angle, leveraging physics instead of brute force. Torvash's knee buckled, and the massive warrior crashed to the ground. The arena went silent. Elias scrambled back, panting. Did we just win?" Torvash blinked in stunned silence. Then, to everyone's shock, the massive Zyrexian laughed. A deep, booming laugh that echoed through the arena. The unexpected victory. Torvash climbed to his feet, shaking his head in amusement. Clever, human. You did not fight with brute strength, yet you still won. This was unexpected. The Zyrexian warlord leaned forward, his reptilian eyes gleaming. It seems humans do not rely on strength alone to prove their bonds. They use wit, strategy, and unpredictability. The Ovlori ambassador fluffed her feathers. How wonderfully chaotic. The Kailari Grand Elder nodded approvingly. A lesson for us all. Strength is not only in muscle, but in mind. Torvash stepped forward, raising his blade in salute. Human, I acknowledge your victory. You have earned the respect of the Zyrexian warriors. Elias exhaled in relief. Oh, thank God. The crowd erupted into cheers, recognizing the battle not as a loss for Torvash, but as a unique demonstration of human adaptability. The warlord rose from his throne. The trial is complete. The human and his bonded Kilari have proven their worth. Let this be recorded in history. Elias leaned down to Rylix, still catching his breath. You realize we just accidentally created a galactic legend, right? Rylix grinned smugly. I know. Isn't it great? Elias groaned. I need a vacation. The aftermath. Back on Odyssey 9, Elias collapsed into his chair, rubbing his temples. The battle had ended, but the diplomatic consequences were far from over. Commander Vance leaned against the console. Well, Carter, I hope you're ready for your new job. Elias frowned. What job? Vance smirked, tapping on the holoscreen. The Galactic Council wants you as an official human Kelari cultural ambassador. Congratulations. Elias stared. I hate everything about that title. Rylix popped up beside him. Do I get to be your assistant? Elias groaned loudly. Fine, but only if I get a raise. Vance chuckled. I'll see what I can do. Before Elias could argue further, a new transmission appeared on screen. It was from a mysterious, unknown species. The message was simple. We have been watching. Humans are fascinating. We wish to learn more. Elias sighed deeply. Oh no, not again. The final decision. The bridge of Odyssey 9 was eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Dr. Elias Carter sat in the captain's chair, arms crossed, staring at the mysterious message glowing on the holoscreen. We have been watching. Humans are fascinating. We wish to learn more. Commander Vance stood beside him, his expression unreadable. Carter, you really know how to attract attention. Elias groaned, rubbing his face. I didn't do anything. I was just trying to survive a diplomatic disaster. How did this turn into first contact with another species? Rylix, curled up in the chair next to him, grinned mischievously. Maybe they were impressed with our combat skills. Elias gave him a look. Our combat skills. You screamed fun facts at a giant lizard while I tripped him with a stick. Rylix puffed out his chest. And we won. That's all that matters. The message blinked again, this time with coordinates attached. Commander Vance frowned. The transmission is coming from a system outside any known galactic territories. Whatever this species is, they've been hiding until now. Elias's stomach twisted. That's not comforting. Vance straightened. The Galactic Council wants us to investigate. This could be humanity's biggest first contact since the Kailari. Elias sighed. Let me guess. I'm going, aren't I? Vance smirked. You're the human Kilari cultural ambassador, Carter. You wanted a raise, right? Elias muttered a very unprofessional response. Rylix bounced excitedly. Oh, mystery aliens. I hope they're fluffy. Elias shot him a tired look. Rylix, not everything in the universe is fluffy. Rylix gasped dramatically. Blasphemy. Vance sighed. Get ready, Carter. We're making history again. With a final deep breath, Elias turned toward the helm. Set course for the unknown. The journey into the unknown. The Odyssey 9 cut through space like a blade, following the mysterious coordinates into an uncharted star system. The closer they got, the more unsettling it became. No radio signals, no beacon transmissions, just pure, eerie silence. Elias tapped his fingers against the console. I really don't like this. Rylix, peering over the sensors, wagged his tail. Maybe they're just shy. Elias exhaled. Or maybe they're waiting to eat us. Rylix blinked. Do humans always assume they're about to be eaten? Elias shrugged. Only when flying into the unknown after an ominous message. The ship dropped out of hyperspace, revealing a massive dark structure floating in the void. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a ship. It was something. Ancient. Vance narrowed his eyes. Scan it. The sensors flickered. No life signs. No transmissions. But it was clearly powered. Elias leaned forward. What the hell is that? Rylix tilted his head. It looks abandoned. The moment the words left his mouth, the ship's lights flickered, and a new message appeared on the screen. Welcome. We have been waiting for you. Elias's breath hitched. Oh, that's not creepy at all. The first meeting. Against every survival instinct screaming in his head, Elias, Rylix, and a small security team boarded a shuttle and approached the structure. The landing bay opened on its own, welcoming them inside. As they stepped onto the platform, the air was unnervingly still. The walls were sleek, metallic, yet ancient, marked with symbols no one recognized. Then, suddenly, they appeared. Tall, ethereal beings, humanoid in shape, but with semi-translucent skin that pulsed with shifting colors. Their eyes glowed like dying stars. One stepped forward, its voice echoing in their minds. Humans, you are different from the others. You do not bond as they do. Yet your connections are powerful. Elias swallowed. You've been watching us. The being nodded. For a long time. We see the web of life. The ties between species. Most civilizations form bonds through shared minds, genetic merging, or energy exchange. But you build bonds through choice, through hardship, through laughter. Rylix's ears perked up. Woo! They get it. The being continued. We have watched many species fall. They bonded too deeply, became singular in mind, and when one fell, all fell. But you humans, you are different. You remain individual. And yet you form alliances that endure. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. So what do you want from us? The being's glowing eyes brightened. To learn and to warn. Elias's stomach twisted. Warn us. About what? The walls around them shifted, revealing holographic images, dozens of civilizations that had vanished. Some names they recognized. Others were unknown to history. A force is coming, the being said. It devours civilizations that rely too much on one connection. We have seen it destroy entire species. But you may be the key to resisting it. Elias stared at the images, the weight of their words sinking in. This wasn't just first contact. This was a warning of an existential threat. The final decision. Back aboard Odyssey 9, the bridge was silent as Elias explained what had happened. Commander Vance leaned back, his face unreadable. So, an ancient race is watching us, and they think we might be the key to stopping some unknown galactic horror. Elias nodded slowly. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Vance sighed. Of course, because nothing in your life is ever simple. Elias groaned. Tell me about it. Rylix bounced excitedly. I think this is great. We're making history. Again. Elias pinched the bridge of his nose. Rylix, I don't think you understand how terrifying this is. Rylix wagged his tail. I do. And it's amazing. Vance chuckled, then turned serious. The council is going to want a full report, and they're going to ask one big question. Do we trust these beings? Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then he exhaled. I don't know, but I think we don't have a choice. If they're right, if something is coming. He looked out the window, at the vast, endless void of space. Then humanity just became part of something much, much bigger. The stars shined back, indifferent and eternal. And for the first time, Elias wondered if humanity was truly ready for what was coming next.